Here we go with your next fight. A great fight between Chris Bond and Dylan Deangelo.
Please welcome to the cage, Chris Bond.
Chris Bond making his way to the cage. Chris Bond, someone we've not seen in a little bit. He kind of ventured off for a little bit, joined Team Ludus down in Johnson City for just a little bit. Now he's kind of an independent, really shocked kind of seeing back. I wasn't really expecting him, not heard much from him. Then out of nowhere, he was ready to fight. And tonight he steps in to deep waters with Dylan Deangelo.
Dylan Deangelo, of course, a favorite throughout East Tennessee and throughout the South. So exciting and brings so much to the table. A very diverse personality and a great competitor.
Chris Bond, one thing about him, very long, very lanky, a very good reach. It'd be interesting to see how he uses it.
Well, and that's what's crazy is that, you mentioned Dylan Deangelo. Those are some of the attributes that you mentioned about him, and so he's not going to have necessarily those advantages. Two guys with a lot of height, extreme height for that weight class, 145. You know a little something about that yourself, Cody. But, it's great to see how Dylan deals with that reach when he has to deal with someone of his own size and stature.
Chris Bond has a kickboxing background. He kickboxed with us about 3 or 4 times down in the early days of Valor. Dylan Deangelo, a little bit more well-rounded. We've seen him on his feet some as well, kickboxing back in the day. We've seen a little bit of his ground game here lately. Against Ryan McVeigh and Crossville, showed off a very good ground game, and those guys had a grappling clinic almost in his last fight, finishing with a 3rd-round triangle. So not really striking versus grappling here in this match, but you got to think maybe Bond will be better on his feet, Deangelo better on the ground.
Right, but again, you never know until they match up. Reach means so much. It's weird when a guy is used to controlling range, when he faces up against a guy his same height, who knows how he deals with that.
Here comes Dylan Deangelo to the cage.
And his opponent, fighting out of the OEB blue corner. Please welcome to the cage, Dylan Deangelo.
Dylan Deangelo representing the Foot Clan in Shane Hill in Knoxville, Tennessee. The best entrance music of the night thus far, I have to say.
Is that your favorite?
That's my favorite. I love it.
Gotcha.
Deangelo, very impressive in his last few outings. Since he's turned 18, got back in the mix, and him and Shane Hill have a very good bond, and you can see in the coach-student relationship. If we take a look at the tape, 6'1", 5'10", big old featherweights. Here tonight, Chris Bond had a little trouble making weight, coming in over the limit at 148.9, and the record's 2-3 versus 2-1 here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said, both of these guys, long, lanky, very close in age. Dylan Deangelo with the better record, but Bond with the experience advantage here. So, he's been around the block a little bit more. I wouldn't say old line versus young line per se, but definitely an interesting matchup because it's almost 2 different eras.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Dylan Deangelo was taking fights when he was 16 and 17, underage kickboxer, so he has a lot of experience. And again, similar to a fight we've had earlier, Deangelo very active here over the last few months, taking the fight in July in Crossville, August right here in Pigeon Forge, and now here in November back here in Pigeon Forge tonight. Chris Bond, we have not seen probably since maybe last year. It might be over a year since we've seen Bond last. And again, a guy who's training with a team full-time against a guy who's independent. We're not sure where he's been training, and always something we kind of look at when you look at a fight.
Well, you definitely have the support. In addition to the technical aspects of the game, you have that support, and Shane Hill is one of the best at that.
Jennifer Ox and I will introduce our 2 competitors here tonight.
This bout is scheduled for 3 3-minute rounds and is brought to you by Apex 9. First, out of the Hogs red corner, he holds a record of 2 wins and 3 defeats. He weighed in at 148 pounds and is fighting out of Morristown, Tennessee. Put your hands together for Chris Breakout Bond. And his opponent out of the OEB blue corner, he holds a record of 2 wins and 1 defeat. Weighed in at 144 pounds and is representing Foot Clan in Knoxville, Tennessee. Give it up for Dylan Pantene Deangelo.
Well, the
Your referee for this
of
fight is Nate
Pantene.
Jolly.
Definitely applause here, but to both gentlemen. Both have great hair.
Dylan is intense during his intro, man. He is ready to go. Very, very nice guy if you've ever met Dylan. He's one of the nicest guys to know. So when he gets in that cage, it is a switch that's flipped. He's a very different guy. They touch gloves, and here we go. Bond in the black. What a leg kick to start from Deangelo. Man, the length of both these guys. It's a side kick that is going to be turned into a takedown here from Deangelo.
Beautiful takedown, though, but look at Chris Bond. He stays upright against the cage, doing what he needs to do, and that's not let his shoulder blades hit the mat.
And Deangelo will work here. If he can get out of this position, he'll have side control.
Here we go. Completed the takedown. Has Dylan Deangelo.
Bond takes half guard, though. Good job getting back to his half guard. And that's one thing. Dylan Deangelo is one of the more active guys we have on the ground. Strikes from everywhere, whether you be half guard, full guard, mount. He is throwing strikes and he's working.
You know, I actually really like the half guard from top position in mixed martial arts competition. It keeps the guy from squirming too much. You know, crossbody is typically the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu position that you want to have. I prefer the other because they lock down, allows you to deliver all those strikes, but they've already transitioned long since from that position.
Going for like a little bit of a modified Darce.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go. Almost
a Peruvian necktie.
Peruvian necktie,
That is something Shane Hill has told me about.
And to a traditional guillotine choke. Will he get the submission?
That's it.
He gets the tap out. Dylan Deangelo with the win there.
That is back-to-back submission wins for Dylan Deangelo. He was trying some fancy things. They didn't work. Go to the traditional, and it worked out great.
Yeah, what a win there. Of course, Chris Bond, he's going to have to go back to the drawing board, but you know what? He's been out of action for a good bit of time now. Stepping back in there, props to him for showing up.
And a big win for Dylan Deangelo, one of our top 5 ranked featherweights. As we check out the replay here, and you see, kind of digs that arm through. When you're long, it works to go for a Darce, but they're not always there. And then he slowly gets the neck and uses that cage.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah, a beautiful finish there, keeping his hips in. It was so tight. Dylan Deangelo, relentless here.
Big first round win for Dylan Deangelo. Be interested to see what's next as Jitterbrox 9 gives us the official winner here tonight.
Your referee stops this fight at 1 minute and 18 seconds into the first round. For your winner via guillotine submission out of the OEB blue corner, Dylan Pantene.